Hey people, welcome to another episode of the Roger's Take podcast. I'm your host, Roger, and here we go. Today I'm joined by my son, Jarrell, who is actually the producer of the show, and we kind of got to talking a little bit before the show about a couple of issues that we felt deserved to be shown on the air and were worthy of being on the podcast. The number one topic, or that he suggested, was the situation with Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin, as you know, is a famous actor who was involved a couple of years ago in this accidental shooting on a movie set, which resulted in the death of one of the stagehands. Well, she actually wasn't a stagehand. I got to give her a proper credit. She was actually the cinematographer for the movie. And Alec Baldwin allegedly picked up the gun and was actually practicing or rehearsing a scene, and he pointed the gun at her, which is a big mistake, at any point. And he squeezed the trigger, and the gun was loaded and went off, resulting in the woman's death. That was one topic, and we want to talk about that. And then also there is a situation in New York City that just happened a couple of days ago, where a homeless man was actually choked out and choked to death on a subway train by a passenger. And what very much resembled in many ways a situation that took place many years ago involving a guy named Bertie Getz. So what are your thoughts on that, Jarrell? What's up with that? Well, let's talk about the first case, Alec Baldwin. What's up with that?
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
I had my opinion on it was basically I felt like Alec Baldwin wasn't responsible for that. I feel that the production crew was solely responsible for that. They should have handled that. Because at the end of the day, an actor, their expectation is like, everything is prop there. If I'm an actor, I'm going to assume that everything is prop, everything is not real. So, and if it is real, the production crew, that's their responsibility to let me know as an actor to say, hey, this is real or this is fake. That's their job, So yeah, I don't really feel like it's a tricky situation because, this is like a weird scenario. But I really feel like the production crew is solely responsible for that, of not letting Alec Baldwin know that this is a real gun and not to point it at. Honestly, I don't even think a real gun should have been on the set anyway. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you to a large extent on that. I mean, anytime that you involve weapons on the set, and like you said, maybe should never use real guns on the set, but they want a scene that's as realistic as possible in all scenarios, especially if they're spending millions and millions of dollars on a movie. They want it to be as realistic as possible. So I guess, it's kind of at this point, there's no getting away from using an actual gun. But having said that, anytime a gun is used in a movie, there's supposed to be, like you said, all kinds of checks and safeguards to make sure there's no accidental discharges and that nobody is injured or certainly not killed on the set as a result. So production, you're absolutely right, is responsible for that, making sure. In fact, they're supposed to have a specific person or persons whose sole responsibility is to make sure that weapon is safe. And that the proper type of non-lethal or dummy ammo is, if any ammo is going to be used, that it's dummy ammo. And you're right. You're absolutely right. I agree with you 100%, Jarrell. Actors and actresses that are on such a set have a certain expectation or have a certain expectation that these matters have been handled and that they're good to go. So to that extent, yeah, no, I agree with you that the responsibility in that case, and in no small way, in most of the way, falls on production. But as you know, we had a discussion prior to all these different developments, and it was my contention that Alec Baldwin did bear some responsibility. I don't know if I wouldn't say full responsibility, but I always felt that he bore some responsibility. But evidently, what happened in the case that you just heard today?
Well, I didn't get that much information on it, but I just know that he wasn't liable for the crime.
he was found not liable for the crime, and so no, there'll be no trial because the rumor was that there was going to be a trial and was going to be held on charges, not of murder or anything like that, but maybe unintentional homicide, or I forget I don't know what the legal term is, but it wouldn't have been murder or anything like that. But evidently you hear that that the charges have been dropped, and that he's not going to be held liable for the incident. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, listen, I've always been a big fan of Alec Baldwin. I've actually worked with him on at least one movie, which was Dr. Death of all things. It was a movie called Dr. Death, and I worked on that movie with him. And so I've always been a big fan of Alec Baldwin, and for the sake of the craft, and everybody involved. I'm hoping that the unfortunate death of the cinematographer will result in awareness and more stringent, protocols as far as making sure that any weapons that are used on the set are properly screened and properly maintained, and making sure that everybody that's going to be handling or being around the weapon is made aware of certain protocols and so forth, so that these kind of accidents will not be happening in the future. You agree with that?
I agree.
Okay. All right. So now the next issue that we wanted to talk about was this vigilantism on the subway, which is basically what everybody is calling it. What happened there, Jarrell?
Well, from the news that I got was that he was a homeless man, and I guess he was being disruptive on the subway. And
now, when you say being destructive, what did you hear that he had done prior to?
Well, I don't know the information. I don't know the details. I just read what I saw, and then I heard that he got choked out.
Okay, and I'm with you on that. I don't know any details, and I guess technically we shouldn't even be talking about it. We know so little about it. But it's such a big news issue today. What I hear happened is that a few days ago, as I said earlier, a homeless guy was choked down on a train by a train passenger who I guess felt intimidated, or claims that he felt intimidated or threatened by the guy. And somebody happened to be on the train, and as you know, if somebody's on the train with a camera, they're going to videotape it, and that's exactly what happened. And it wound up showing up on YouTube and everywhere else. So everybody got to see what happened firsthand, and maybe that's why there's such outrage and so many protests now. Because what happened was after the gentleman was choked out, and after he died, the perpetrator, or the passenger on the train, was actually arrested initially, and then the police turned around and let him go because it was their, I guess they concluded that he was, defending himself. But further a review of the tape and discussions by various law enforcement people and including people in politics and so forth, have concluded that looking at the tape, they don't see, where the amount of force that was used on that guy was justifiable. They don't see it. And there's no clear information showing that whatever this guy done or did on the train, whatever this homeless guy did while he was on the train, was not something that would warrant or justify this guy jumping up and choking him to death. I mean, sure, he was acting in an erratic manner, but was he actually threatening the passenger? Did he make any threatening statements to the passenger? What was the reason that the passenger felt a duty or necessary to get up and choke the guy? That's my big question in my head. And supposedly the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, by the way, who's the same guy that prosecuted Donald Trump, that's going to be prosecuting Donald Trump. I had to throw that in there, you know that. So he's going to be investigating it. And according to Mayor Adams doesn't want to make any comments one way or the other for or against the prosecution or arrest of the passenger, because he wants to await the results of the investigations. But and as do I, and as should everybody. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, I mean, again, what I'm looking for is whether or not the homeless guy actually threatened the passenger in any way that would actually warrant that, or was he just acting in an erratic manner? We don't know. So that's what we're waiting on today. The thing about this case is that way back when, in the 80s, there was a case involving a guy named Bernie Getz who had a hidden gun on him, and he was sitting in a subway riding with three black teenagers actually approached him. Bernie Getz was white, and evidently Bernie Getz states that they were threatening to mug him or rob him, and Bernie Getz at some point pulled out a gun and shot him, resulting in their death. And that was a very, very, very big case in the 80s. It was called the Bernie Getz case, and there's a whole thing against vigilantism, which this is another example of that, I guess, with the choking of the homeless guy. So it's a whole big issue coming back at us again. So, and then the choking issue that of course gives us nightmares and remembering the recent choking of Mr. Floyd. So it's potentially even bigger issue than it is. And the real question is whether or not the police are going to handle this in a way that they would handle any case involving somebody being choked to death. Would that person or the person that choked that other person be walking the streets freely right now, or would they be in jail pending an investigation, or in custody in some way pending against an investigation? Evidently, the NYPD felt that they had enough information that warranted this guy to be released, because they didn't feel that, or because the information indicated that he was actually defending himself. I don't know. I don't know if you can actually see that in the video. You can't. You see the guy being choked, but you don't actually see what led up to it. And in any event, if the guy is being choked out, at some point you got to say, okay, this guy is under control now, or at some point does the choking become excessive? This guy is obviously not a trained professional or like a police officer, so he's not held to the same standard, I guess, that a police officer would be held to. So in other words, where he would actually know the rules and laws regarding, physical force, the use of force, and when not to use force. So we can't put that on him necessarily, I don't think. But just in general, was it a justifiable move, and was it excessive force? And should this guy be walking the streets right now? Well, only time will tell, and this investigation is underway. But based on the seriousness of the case and and how much it has spread, the story has spread throughout the country. Based on all that, I think they're kind of going to expedite this a little bit just to make sure that it's handled properly. What do you think? You agree?
I agree.
Okay. All right. That